So we're going live on YouTube. It says got it. And you're going to hear quickly. It's going to pop up once it's up. What are you doing back there? All right. So now we're going live on YouTube. Okay. So I'm going to we're live on YouTube. I got rid of the feed. So we're live on Facebook and YouTube. And now we're back up on here so we can see you.
Why is there so many?
So now I'm going to take a look at how we look on Facebook real quick. And then once we get it all going on Facebook, well, the Facebook and YouTube get a lot of behind the scenes type look, but then we'll get a look.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, there you go.
Fix that.
And then once we get going, we are on Facebook. Okay, Avery, we're live. You have to be quiet, otherwise go upstairs. Now's the time. All right. You never hit go live.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Share. It says share.
It should go 3, 2, 1 on a big screen. You can move it all you want and just say go live.
Not much.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I'll take.
Here we go.
You got 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
There
There
we
we go. All right. So now we're live on YouTube. And what I like to do is share it to all the whiskey groups because it gets you gets you a lot more exposure. All right. And once I get that up, there we go. I could see us. Here you are. Are you happy with that, Supernat?
Yep. Good with me.
Yep. And so we want to look both ways for the Facebook users, and I will start to share it on Facebook. And this doesn't take too long because you hit share to a group and you get a big list and you just start sharing. I am sharing away. Have you shared it on your YouTube?
I have tried, but you know what? I have someone much younger than me that runs our social media. If you get my drift. And
Yeah.
I'll figure.
Well, he's probably good at doing it without dropping everything.
Well,
Avery.
All right. Well, I'm good.
I'm getting it going. You got some time. Don't worry. We haven't. Then once we go, we run a spot and that a 30-second spot where we're kind of quiet because it runs for the actual podcast.
Okay.
And then we play our theme song. And once we hit our theme song, we get going. So you'll hear all that. I'm sharing it to a lot of people. I normally do, but let's go for it. So, but we each belong to probably 100 bourbon.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Bourbon groups and love to share it with them and
All right, give me a second. Be right back.
get your name out.
Barely.
Hey, can you hear the kids in the background, Chris?
Not right now, no.
Good. Because I can. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I hit all the Ohio groups. Mm-mm. We're still getting there. We want to get this to everyone we can.
Go back to that link.
Mm. There we go. We're starting to get close to the end. Yep. that was it. All right, we got some people going. So on Facebook live, you can I have to turn that. I just turned it up instead of down. But now I got to get back to that. All right, so there we go. Now I'll turn it back up, so I'll make sure that when we hit this. All right. That turned off. Make sure that works. All right, we're back up. All right, so we're getting ready to start. All right, everybody, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, welcome to the Scotchy Bourbon Boys podcast from here in Canton, Ohio, in Troy, Ohio, and in Springfield, Ohio. We have a nice group on the podcast tonight, and then also up from South Carolina, we have Super Nash up here. And we're getting ready to start. We have Greg Taylor of Hayner Distillery, and
Welcome, Greg.
very excited.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to, we're set up on YouTube. We're set up on Facebook. So we're going to get ready to start to record the podcast. So everybody on YouTube and Facebook, we're going to do a 30-second quiet spot where we're going to be quiet. But once we're through that, you're going to hear, and this is going to be a very exciting podcast tonight.
Yes.
All right, we can do that. We're ready to go for them. Here we go.
Drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We did a little while, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do with drinking every brew. Man, it's all sunshine, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising the hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
All right. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys.
Yes.
Tonight, we have a very, very exciting episode. We have Greg Taylor from Hayner Distillery.
Welcome, Greg.
We have CT from Springfield at his house in his new studio for the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Welcome,
CT.
Chris.
All right.
And then also we have Super Nash up here in studio from South Carolina for the holidays, and we are ready to go tonight. Myself, Tiny, very excited tonight to do this podcast. We kind of met. That's where I met Chris at the Mother Stewart's tasting that we did, and then I also met Greg there also. Yeah. So that was a really kind of a cool night being up there at Mother Stewart's with Andrew Cadman. That's how you pronounce it there, Chris? Is that right? Or did I butcher it? Camden. Thank you. And it was great to be up there, and we did that cool thing right from Mother Stewart's, but at the same time we got to meet Greg. So then last month I was down by Chris. We were hanging out, and he's like, let's go over to Hayner. So we head over there to and Greg was there. They were doing a bottling, and there was a event kind of happening there, and it was kind of fun to be there. But we decided that we'd set up the podcast, and here we are, right?
Oh yeah, happy to be here. This is gonna be great.
Excellent. Yes. So Chris, what's it like being on your first zoom in, kind of bring in the podcast kind of thing? What are you thinking?
Hey, it's exciting. I like being a part of something that's local. I mean, obviously I grew up right down the street from Greg and where they're doing their stuff. So to be local and have this kind of stuff in your backyard is pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So tonight I definitely want you, because Hayner is in your backyard. Technically, I want you to ask a lot of questions. I don't want to be the main guy asking the questions. I start talking and get long-winded, and I just, that's usually because I'm sitting in here by myself, but we got so many people. So I'm counting on you guys to jump in. So Greg,
Yes.
let's talk about how you got into the whole thing. I mean, what got you started to bring back this awesome brand?
Yeah, so the short of the long is bourbon got us back into it. Sitting around drinking one night, we thought, well, why has nobody ever done this? And Hayner's got a great history, a great story, and they made amazing whiskey even back from the 1900s. We thought, well, let's try to revive this brand, and we never came across an obstacle we couldn't get over. We started about 2 years ago the process of doing this after. So me and a bunch of friends did the Bourbon Trail, and I'm sure you guys have been to the Bourbon Trail.
Yes.
Yeah. So that sort of got us excited about the bourbon history. And we came back to Troy, and in Troy we have the Hayner Cultural Center. And so there's the house that Hayner built when they're distilling. It's called the Cultural Center. Now it supports the arts in our town. They have a museum there dedicated to Hayner whiskey. And we thought, going through that museum, we just done the Bourbon Trail. And I was between jobs. We thought this would be awesome. Let's do this. And so we started down that path. And again, just was able to overcome every obstacle. And there was a lot of them when you start trying to start a distillery. And so it took about 2 years to launch. And we started last June of 2021 is when was our first day of sales.
So the idea happened pre the world going to shit.
Yeah, it did.
But then when you actually it started to come as a vision. What was it like? Was the fact that the world kind of paused benefit for you guys, where you guys could get your feet underneath you and not have as much pressure, or was it the opposite? How was that?
Well, our experience was definitely different because of the pandemic. So when we're doing all of our permitting and all of our with the state and with the federal government, everybody's working from home. And so, we've not been through a normal permitting process, because when we did it, you're calling the Ohio Department of Liquor Control and you're talking to your staff person, and they're from home and they've got kids in the background. You hear the dogs barking. So it's a lot different process, and they came out a couple times, but I think in a normal procedure, in a normal process, they would be out at your distillery several times. And we only had maybe 1, maybe 2 visits of on-site inspections. And so it was quite different. It did add probably about 6 months to our time frame. You can usually do it in about a year, and it took us over a year and a half to get everything in order, again, because of the pandemic. So I don't think it hurt us or helped us, but it was just obviously a very different experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take the floor right here, CT. You got questions?
Hey, I'm just letting you go. You kind of get going. I just got to sit back and listen and learn.
You can. So tell me about why you chose. I understand it's where you live, the Hayner name, but give a little bit of history to the actual brand and what it was about.
Absolutely. So Hayner started in this is I call it my elevator speech. And so for us older guys, we know what an elevator speech is. I found the younger generation doesn't. So my elevator speech is 1866 is when a guy named Lewis Hayner comes to Troy, Ohio, builds a distillery right north of downtown, one block north of downtown Troy on the river. And this is 1866. So if you know your history, 1865 is when Civil War ends and Lincoln is assassinated. So this is how old the company is. And they go from 1866 to 1920, which is the beginning of Prohibition, and they close at Prohibition like everybody. But where their specialty was mail order whiskey. So they had 8 different warehouses all across the country, and most of their sales were mail order. So if you wanted a bottle of Hayner bourbon, you would send in your mail order slip. If you live near Boston, for example, you would send it to the Boston warehouse, and they would fill your order from there. For a while, they were filling every order from Troy, and so they're shipping all across the country, and that's expensive. So what do? Same thing what Amazon's doing, right? So they built warehouses at 8 different warehouses stationed across the country, so they could fill their mail orders more efficiently and cheaper than doing everything from Troy. But everything was distilled in Troy and bottled in Troy, aged in Troy. But they ship by rail car all their bottles to these different warehouses. So they were phenomenally successful at that. It's great to see so everything was their marketing was letters. So once you ordered from them, well, they had your address. So if you didn't order again in 6 months, they'd send you a letter. Then they'd send you another letter to say, hey, don't forget about us. Order and they would even send you free bottles. And at that point, they would send you a free bottle and say, hey, keep this and go ahead and mail us $2 and we're good. And so that was very interesting marketing what they did. So 1920 comes around, they close. 1933, Prohibition ends and never reopened. So when we relaunched it, we actually went to the Hayner Cultural Center, which is a nonprofit in our town now. The house that the Hayner family built is now it's a mansion right downtown, right next to the courthouse. And it was actually our library for 30 years. When the Hayner family all passed away, they donated it to the city, actually to the school system. It became our library for 30 years in our town, and then it became a cultural arts center. And so they're a nonprofit. So we went to them and said, we'd like to relaunch this brand. It's a great, we're behind you, let's do it. And so we actually took a sample of a unopened bottle from 1904, took a sample of it, took it down to Bardstown Bourbon Company, gave them our elevator speech at Bardstown, say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. We want to revive this whiskey brand. Here's a sample. And if you know anything about bourbon, which you do, obviously, because you have a podcast. So Bardstown's the best of the best down there. Those guys are excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
They took a sample of it. They drank it and said, this is incredible. This is great. 120-year-old bourbon. So we worked with them to come up with a blend to match the original. So our initial offering is a blend. We didn't distill. Bardstown did. It was a blend of different things they distilled. And they have made our barrels. We contracted with them to make our barrels. Those barrels are aging. So while we're waiting for those to age out, we're continuing to source from Bardstown for our bourbon supplies. That was a little bit. That was a long elevator.
No, for a podcast that was like kind of perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't in an elevator and people want to know, get a little bit of detail.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of experience with Steve Nally and
Yes.
Nick Smith down there and talking to them and with other brands. So
Yeah.
we kind of know what's going on and how they're doing it and what they're going the process. And it's really exciting that they were able to acquire Green River because in my opinion, that distillery now being run by them will be able to allow them to meet the demand of the distilling industry that is asking them to do it for them,
Right.
that kind of thing. And I've been down, I was at Green River when it was Ozzie Tyler, and they definitely have the space. And we also know Aaron Harris down there, he was up at Watershed and now he went to Green River. And so he'll be the master distiller down at Green River. So it's really a kind of a cool marriage, and they're doing really good things. And I think that based off what exactly what your story is, you're picking the good way to go.
Yeah. We looked at distilling ourselves. I often tell people to distill, you got to have two things. You got to have to do it right. You got to have a lot of money and you have a lot of talent. And we didn't have either of those things. We could have bought a $5,000 still and made whiskey, but you wouldn't have liked it. The fact that we got Bardstown to partner with us, sort of a feather in our cap. I mean, they're the best of the best. And so we thought, well, we're never going to make bourbon and whiskey as good as these guys do. So we made the decision, a business decision, to contract with them to do our product.
No, I think that's a really good that's a good idea, opposed to just purchasing whiskey and blending, which a lot of people are doing. I mean, that's
Right.
out there, and the industry is starting, we see the industry stepping up to meet the demand of the consumer, which is still, it's not close, but there, you see a lot of things happening, especially in the state of Ohio. Now, kind of explain what it's like to be in the state of Ohio distilling with them. So the partnership that they are doing with the distilleries that, like yourself and whatnot, and what it's like to work with them, because right now you're looking at one of the way the state of Ohio is doing it is they're making one of the hottest bourbon markets in the country. I mean, they just are coming on strong.
Yeah, no, they've been great to work with, honestly. I'm not just saying that to pump them up, but everybody at Department of Liquor Control has been, and they want us to succeed. So Ohio is, I don't know if your listeners are primarily Ohio, but Ohio is a control state, meaning when you buy whiskey, anything over 40 proof in the state of Ohio, you're buying it from the state. They own the bottle of bourbon. When we want to sell a bottle of whiskey, we sell to the state. And when we sell to a customer, they take that money from us because we've already got our money from the state. And so when we're successful, they're successful. They obviously, when they buy it from us, they mark it up and they sell it at the retail price that we've told them to sell it at. And so there are a lot of, they're doing a lot of things to incentivize and to help start up distilleries in the state of Ohio.
That's awesome. What were you going to say?
How many states are you marketing in right now?
So yeah, right now we're only in Ohio. So Ohio has around 500 state liquor stores, and we're in 50 of them. So we're again, we've only been doing this for a year, so even be 50 within a year is pretty good. So we will gradually branch out across the state as our inventory grows and as our sales grow. One thing the state does, which is good, they do control how many stores you can be in. If you expand too fast, your sales per store go down. And they track that and they show that to you. We have a portal we log on. All distilleries in Ohio have a portal. You log on, you can see all your products. You can see what product you're selling and what store, how many per month, your sales per store per month. And you have to meet certain metrics in order to expand out. And, the people, so the 50 that we're in, obviously in the Dayton area, Miami Valley, some in Cincinnati, some in Columbus. And, to get to Cleveland is probably another year until we get, because it's marketing. People in Cleveland don't know about Hayner. Hopefully they do now, but not a lot of people in Cleveland know about Hayner. And so doing things like this and doing other items, social media is our marketing, is to get our brand out further than the Miami Valley.
Awesome.
Well, being in the Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati area that you are at the moment, that is definitely the hot part of the state. I mean, Super Nash flew into Cleveland today, and he worked his way down through the liquor stores, just checking out the different liquor stores. And honestly, we're in the Akron, Canton area, which is the far north of like the hot spot. And then, but once you hit up to Cleveland, I mean, for God's sakes, he had a shot at one point. He just missed Russell's Reserve 13, which was distributed in the state probably at the end of August. So there's a lot of stuff that's not happening up in Cleveland because of how the market is. But I think if they start, if Ohio Liquor starts, and people with what you're putting up there, if this keeps going, I mean, this will just make us, even bigger player in the country for getting good bourbon into the state.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm sure about the Ohio Liquor Control, what they're doing with their barrel, it's called the Barrel Select program, or the rare program, where you can, it's a lottery, right? You can get on, put your email address on, and they select you to get a rare bottle. Because they know there's a hard to find. And they're, I think that's a great program so everybody has access, or everybody has the ability to maybe get one of those hard to find bottles.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
It's not, somebody's old boy network. And,
Right.
And that's one thing that they're working hard just to make the whole distribution fair. And I really feel that you're going to benefit immensely by being in this market, because what you put out, I think pretty much sell because now that we've talked about it, we picked up your bourbon, which is this particular one.
Right.
I have it. It's the straight bourbon, right?
Yes.
You see that one. And
Yep.
so we're going to taste that. And then we also picked up the rye. So that's CT right there. He's got the rye bottle.
All right.
I'm a bourbon guy. He's a rye guy. So when we went, after we purchased it, he gave me, as you could see, my rye's in a Weller bottle and his bourbon's in a clear bottle. So
There you go.
yeah. So talk about your bourbon.
All right. So the bourbon again is it is a blend from Bardstown, and it was our contact down there was a guy named Dan Calloway, and so we made about 7 trips down there to come up with this blend. We honestly created this blend to match their original bourbon that we took from a 120-year-old bottle. It was a very high core and high sweet bourbon, so that was the main profile we're going after. And I think we found it. I mean, if you've been to Bardstown, they have a bourbon library, and we're getting our Hayner bottle in there, and they said it's some of the best 120-year-old they've tasted, and so we're very excited about that. And so you go down there, and you've got a graduated cylinder, and you mix up 100 milliliters, so you put 20 milliliters of this barrel and 30 milliliters of this barrel and 50 milliliters of this barrel, and you're trying to blend these things. So one, not all bourbon blends well together. So you got to find the ones that blend well together. And we're also trying to match this taste. It's just such a neat experience, going down to Bardstown, doing that multiple times. And
Were you working with Nick or Steve as far as blending?
Yeah, Nick was there. It was Nick and Dan were our 2 main contacts.
Okay.
Steve was in and out, but those are the 2 on our 8 trips down there. Those are the 2 main guys. And it's such a neat process because obviously we love bourbon, we love this, and what we found after the first trip is you can't drink it. You've got to just taste it and spit it out. So you got a little spittoon cup. We're down there for 5 hours, mixing bourbons, and so you become too intoxicated very quickly. So you have a spittoon cup, and you find one you really like, and that's the one you drink. And so that was the experience. It's really interesting. It's literally just experimenting. You've got graduated and you're pouring beakers and you're trying different things until you come to a percentage. All right, we ended up with I'm testing my knowledge here. 40% of our bourbon is 13-year-old stuff, and the balance is 60% balance is a blend of 4-year and 3-year. And I'll always tell people that you got 3-year-old bourbon in there. I'm telling you, it was much better with the 3 than without. It just, the way things blend together and the way the flavors come out when you mix different things. We had 14-year-old, we had 13-year-old bourbon, we had 4-year bourbon, and we started playing around putting 3-year-old stuff in it. It's I think only 10% is 3 years old. And you go back and look, but it's not that much, but it brightened it up. And so people would say, well, you don't want 3-year-old bourbon in there, but it honestly tasted better. So we did that. And when you do that, you have to disclose in your label that you have 3-year-old bourbon in your blend. And so we had to disclose that, and that's okay, because in the end, we think it was a better product.
Yeah. And now you've gone through that process once, twice. Is this what I'm tasting is the first batch?
Yeah. So that's the first batch. We're working on the second right now. As far as we have, our inventory is about June or July, based on sales projections. We'll be out of our first batch in June or July of this year.
So when did you lay down your first distillate?
Yeah, so our distillate was laid down in March of this year by Bardstown. Okay. So we did 2 different blends. We did a 4-grain with them. We did 150 barrels of a 4-grain, 150 barrels of a high rye bourbon. And so, so as I explained earlier, so now we've got we're trying to wait till 6 years, but if we get to 4 or 5 years and it's really good, maybe we'll bottle it then. But the goal is to make it to 6 years, and we'll have our own juice, our own.
Oh, that is a dilemma of every single distiller and distillery, because you want to wait. And I think the good talking to as many distillers as I have, like you said, there's a certain amount maybe at 4, but you're going to have certain barrels that are going to want to go, you want to go further, not ready. And so it is it does become a skill, what you're talking about.
Skill in the process.
Yeah. And it's good that, like you said, you had Nick and Dave, right? That was his name.
Yeah, Dan Calloway.
Dan. Okay. Yeah. Nick and Dan.
And they'll help us through that also. Although I run a distillery, I'm not going to say my profiling bourbons I'm not that good at as I need to be yet, right? I've only been doing this a couple of years. Those guys have been doing it for 10, 20 years. And so we do lean on them, their professional taste buds to give us some direction.
Well,
Greg, again.
Go ahead, Chris.
So just to recap on this bourbon that we're drinking right now, this is a blend of 3 to 14-year-old.
Yes.
It tastes great. I mean, I don't know how in the world and that's kind of what I think with people getting all age statement happy, something that's 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. I've had stuff that's been older that's tasted bad. I've had stuff younger that's tasted bad. I think Jim Beam, for instance, came out with a 2-year-old this year, and people just beat them up over it, and it tastes great.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think the age statement matters as much as the way it tastes, and this tastes really good. So
100%, and that's back to why we ended up using the 3-year, although we were hesitant because if we didn't have that 3-year on there, we wouldn't have an age statement because the TTB rules are 3-year, then you have to have an age statement. So I agree with you 100%. It should be in how it tastes and not the year on the label. And but that's whiskey, right? It's an experience, and so and we're all it's very personable that everybody's taste buds are different. What you might love, Chris, I might not, and the opposite,
sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah, this is a good pour though. This I have to say that every time I go back to it, I don't get any off-putting flavors, no off-putting scents. Yeah. I can tell you of all the bottles I have here, several of them, you go back to them and you get the ethanol and you get the different things, but this is a very pleasing pour.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well,
that's what I was going to say. Usually when you mentioned 3-year-old, first thing that comes to mind is you're gonna get the notes of the ethanol, and you're gonna get the taste of the tannins and all that are still in there. But I get none of that.
Yeah, great. I don't think it comes through.
It's complimented. It's sweet. It's
like
nice.
knowing that you did it at Bardstown and how they are so transparent in what they do on their fusion and their discovery series. If you look, they've done it that's similar to what you've done, but what you're trying to do here is match a flavor profile from 120 years ago. So if you need to put 3, 2, 1, whatever to get that, so that when you sip on the 120 and then years ago, the 120 year, and then you sip on this and you're getting pretty much the same experience. I think that's what you were trying to do. And and this does not taste young, at all. And it tastes similar to what they were doing with the Discovery and Fusion, but it definitely tastes like a frontier whiskey, that it's not too sweet. It's got a little bit of that bourbon bite, though it's got some grain flavors in there. And, that's what you were looking for. And I think you really accomplished it with this.
Thanks. Yep. Yeah, you're right. That was our goal. It was to match that original. Yeah, it's part of our story. It's part of our heritage. And that was important to us. But blends in general, once we got into this, I like blended actually bourbon more than a single barrel. Sometimes there's these different bourbons, these different barrels put together. It creates more flavor. I think a better mouthfeel. There's a lot of things going on there, and not that single barrel is bland, but you just get a different experience. I think with blended, that I think it's worth having.
Well, go ahead.
So
Chris.
since I drank this, just to touch on this, it's still around the top of the glass. It has not even fallen down the glass. It's staying that attached. That's pretty amazing in itself. But It's
Very nice.
realistically, you would never think there was anything 3-4-year-old in that.
No.
It's
Well-
flavor.
Well, you intrigue me by you've tasted the 120-year-old bourbon,
Mhm.
and then you've got to you've obviously y'all got to taste it right next. When you were doing the blending, you probably had a little bit of a sample of them both to get to the point, and you've expressed that it's pretty cool, but you can at 120-year-old bourbon, and if you're like in the same ballpark, I mean, I think you really did a good job.
Yeah. And part of our experience in doing this was just tasting the 120-year-old stuff from Hayner that Hayner made back in the early 1900s. We're a little nervous in that because what if it sucked? I mean, that'd been awful, because who wants to revive a whiskey brand that made sucky whiskey? So fortunately, we were told that it's going to be good, and it was. Otherwise, a story would have been shot.
Let me ask you, how much of the 120-year-old Hayner whiskey did you have to work with, or did you come across?
We did 4 ounces. So we took a syringe through an unopened through a cork, and we're able to extract 4 ounces of it.
Okay.
The bottle was pretty good. The cork was pretty much intact. It had lost 3-4 ounces maybe.
Yeah.
So we pulled that out, and I actually still have maybe like a half ounce left here at the house. But between
Wow.
tasting it multiple times, and they've analyzed it and proofed it, and so we got 4 ounces. It's hard to find a full bottle. It's maybe once every 2 or 3 years we'll find one on the internet. They only had a couple there at the museum, and they'd let us sample it.
Excellent. So tasting notes, Chris, on this one, Mr. Christmas Tree.
Hey, the thing that I get a decent amount of the butterscotchy type stuff on it. The butterscotch is pretty good for me. It's like Nash said, I don't get the off-putting stuff. So it's not super sweet like a butterscotch, but it's soft, and it's just the caramel notes that are in it they're soft. It's not overwhelmingly sweet, but it's just a good drink. It's not it's easy to drink.
Very pleasant, full mouthfeel. I get it. All the sweetness, the flavors hits all the sides, top, roof of the mouth. That's what I like about it. And then it's got that nice little hug to it right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But lots of caramel and butterscotch.
So what was the proof on this?
90.
90?
Yeah. Both our bourbon and our rye are at 90.
Okay.
I think it's got a little more mid-palate
Yeah.
feel than a 90.
Yeah, the mouthfeel, like you said, is way more than normal 90. There's a little bit more going on. It's a fuller, richer, but like I said, I get a lot of the way I describe it is it's like a corn. There's a little bit of popcorn corn kind of taste, really rich. And then you get a little bit of the oak tannins from the barrels, probably coming from a little bit from the 14-year, right? I mean, like I said, I think you've accomplished on the bourbon. Now, when we first tasted at Mother Stewart's, the little bit of tasting that we had, a lot of times when I meet up with smaller, newer distilleries, you get that younger kind of taste because of exactly, you've laid down your whiskey and you're trying to, at 4, you just put it out at 4 years or whatever. And it's not like it's bad, but it still feels like could go, if it went longer, it would be better. But that's not what you get from this. You get, that whole, I get a lot of that from, you get a taste like this from a lot of mature distilleries. There's no doubt about it. Now, as far as your new distillate that you're laying down and whatever, is that going to be, you're not going to be trying to recreate this with your distillate. You're going to basically come out with your own bourbons and your own rye.
You're right. It's going to be a different profile, obviously. We're probably, it's who knows 6 years from now, but right now we're leaning towards blending. even our own stuff. We've got 2 different mash bills, so maybe we blend those together. If they work well together, we'll know when we get there. But it wouldn't surprise me if we did a blend, but it would be a different profile than our current blend. And the blend we have now, I think, is phenomenal, but it'll never exist again because 40% of it is this 13-year-old bourbon, which is not on the market anymore. A little bit back in it is, as we know, the bourbon market has exploded. You can't get old stuff, or you try to get old stuff. If you're source stuff like we do right now, it's phenomenally expensive. What we paid for that 13-year-old bourbon was a lot, but now it's 50% more. So cost-wise, I don't think we could pull it off, and you just can't find the stuff. So our next blend we're working on, we have a lot of 9-year, 5-year, and 4-year barrels. So we'll be working on a blend right now, these 9, 5, and 4-year barrels. Again, we'll go through the same process and just putting them together and see what tastes good. That's why in the end, like you said, it's just what tastes good.
Yeah, can I get on that mailing list?
Yeah, I know.
And if I don't respond, just send me bottles.
Right.
Let me ask you this: how big is your taste panel? How many guys are you working with to come up with this?
Right. So our first go around for this, there was 3 of us. The 3 partners in the company. Right now, there's 2 partners. At that point, we had 3 partners, and the 2 guys from Bardstown. And we did bring back friends and family, of course. And we did a lot of blind tastes. We would do ours, and we would blind it against Knob Creek and against Woodford's, and just to see how we compared. Again, I don't think it's always, are you better? I think, is it comparable, and is it good? Is it a good experience to drink it? Because I think it's always, to me, it's always tricky to say one bourbon's better than the other, because again, it's very personable, and what you might think is better, the next person doesn't like. So I don't think saying better. You just want something that presents well, drinks well, and is a good experience.
Yeah, you're 100. You're never going to please everybody.
Right.
There's going to be people who love what you're doing. There are going to be people that hate it. There's going to be, it's all there because everybody's different. But at the same time, I think you're putting out a good product. The key to anything, as you know, is to get the word out. I mean, if you get the word out, most people who drink whiskey are that they like this. So the goal is to sell everything that you make. But I think at this point, the size that you are and what you've been doing, you're kind of probably happy with the sales that you're doing, and glad that you don't sell out instantaneously, because if you sell out instantaneously, then when people come, you have nothing to sell them. Right.
Yeah. It definitely is a balance, but this is often said, but I think a lot of times the story and the label can sell the first bottle. I think we got a great story to tell. I'll tell you a little bit about our labels here in a second, but what's inside of it will sell the second and third bottle. And I think we've got a good enough product on the inside that we can sell the second and third, but it's back to what you said, it's just getting the word out. Someone our size, we don't have $10,000 advertising budget. We do a lot of grassroots stuff like podcasts and social medias. We do a lot of taste tests at clubs, at restaurants, at bars. And that's how we're getting the word out. And it's worked pretty good for a year. We've grown quite a bit, and we're young. We still got a long way to go.
And I'll tell you, you just said something just a couple minutes ago. And bourbon is now, it's not just a liquid that you drink. It's become an experience.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just getting that drink in the bottle and all that. It's the packaging, it's the experience, it's the story behind it. And all people are wanting that and wanting to hear that. And it's becoming so much more, like I say, bourbon is an experience. It's just not just.
That'd be a great segue. Do we have time to give me a couple minutes on another topic?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Absolutely.
So Hayner just launched last week a program about whiskey being an experience. We think it also could be a journey. We just launched last week a program called Whiskey Webcam. And it is what it says it is. We actually placed a webcam inside a whiskey barrel, brand new whiskey barrel. These are the barrels that Bardstown made for us. Well, now they're 6 months old, but we started when they're 3 months old. And so you can actually purchase that bottle of bourbon now, and for 6 years, you have access to the live stream. And if you went to Whiskey Webcam right now, you can see a sample of the live stream. And every year, we're going to send you a sample of that bourbon, a 50 milliliter sample of that bourbon. And so as it ages, you're watching it. Granted, you're not going to get on your phone or computer every night and look at this bourbon barrel, but it's pretty cool to look at once in a while. And you're going to get a sample every year for 6 years. So you get to taste the whiskey as it matures. Then at the end, you actually get the bottle of bourbon. And so, that would be the most anticipated bottle of bourbon you've ever drank, because now you've spent 6 years watching and tasting and sampling it. So it's
nurturing it.
You've taken the Maker's
Oh
Mark
my God.
ambassador experience one step further. I mean, right
so-
now it's
Yeah, so
I'm
whiskey-
at
Whiskey Webcam.
yeah.
Whiskey Webcam.
Hey, Greg, very important part of that. Can I buy insurance policies on people that pass away during that process so I get their bottle?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's life, and it's probably going to happen. We hope not, but yeah, there's a chance of that. So it's going very well. So each barrel we have 2 barrels right now, one of each of our bourbon blends, our bourbon mash bills. And so each barrel has a camera. You can look inside of it and you can see the bourbon, you can see the barrel, and we send you a sample. And then you get it. Actually, what happens is after 4 years, anytime after 4 years, you can elect to have your bottle taken out of the barrel. And we're only selling 125 bottles per barrel because of the angel share and because we're taking samples out of it. Normally, you get about 200 bottles. We're going to cap it at 125. And after 4 years, we're going to let the customers, you can decide when you want it. Maybe you like your 4-year sample and you're ready for it, or maybe you wait till 5 years. And you also can dictate the proof, because you're getting barrel proof stuff. But if you like barrel proof, you like your whiskey at 100, we'll send it to you at 100.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah, like you said, an awesome experience.
yep.
Great.
Is that on your website, Greg? Is that how you
That's
get?
something new.
Yeah, if you go to Hayner.com, there's several links to Whiskey Webcam.
Nice.
Excellent. Let's
Hear that at Facebook. Go to Whiskey Webcam.
yeah, and YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
So are we ready to do the rye? Now this is you, Chris.
Hey, I've already started on the rye. I don't know about you.
If you look at our 2 pours, Super Nash has way more, way more rye in his than mine. So
That is a healthy pour.
Let them hold it up there side by side.
I'm just lying.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So,
Cheers.
So, Greg, tell us about the rye as we drink it, but absolutely, this is delicious. So,
Yeah. So the rye is an MGP product, and I don't say that to be negative. MGP makes the best rye out there. We've taken a unique approach in that, as far as we know, we're the only 4-year, 6-year blend. So we had a lot of 4-year barrels of MGP, a lot of 6-year barrels by themselves. They're both pretty good. The 6 years better. But again, blending together, taking that 4, putting it with the 6. So it's 50% 4-year 95.5 rye, 50% 6-year 95.5 rye blended together. It came out phenomenal. It has won a double gold at the John Barley Corn Spirits Competition. It won a gold at the New York Spirits Competition. It's done phenomenal out there. And again, full transparency, it is MGP product, but it's a great product. They make great rye.
So
we just came out a really, really good blend.
So I am a little bit familiar about a bunch of stuff that MGP does, but when it comes to a distillery, what's the process of picking those barrels? What do you go to Indiana? Do you try hundreds of barrels? I mean, or do they get you how do you pick the barrels for your batch?
So we did this during the pandemic. So we could not visit them. But what we did do was they had the barrels that were for sale. In our case, they could direct us to brands that use them. And I can't disclose that, but they said, all right, this brand, they're using this barrel, this batch of barrels. Barrels come out in batches. And this batch number, if you taste this, that's these. If you taste this, that's these. And so we tried different rye whiskeys and said, okay, we really like this rye whiskey. It's from this batch of barrels. That's the one we're going to buy. And I still don't think MGP has they're not customer facing still. I don't think you can go there and sample barrels with them.
The only way that you can do it is if you're starting a brand. I mean, that's what they
Right.
do. They have a brand starting, like,
Yeah,
if the now granted, the Scotchy Bourbon Boys wanted to start a brand, I could contact them
mhm,
and we could purchase barrels with our logo, and then consistently, they would set it up there. There's a smaller brand program that I've seen at MGP.
yeah,
But at the same time, you actually have to commit to doing brand and keep coming back and doing that kind of thing. Like, but at this, now you're distilling at the Bardstown Bourbon Company rye,
Right.
correct? You said 450 barrels of each.
No, right
Right.
now right now Bardstown's only made bourbon for us. We've not distilled any
okay.
rye. So
Okay.
right now, at this point, we made the decision we bought a large stock of barrels from MGP.
Okay.
And we've got a really, really good blend with these barrels. And so we're going to stick with that and not distill anything right now for as far as rye goes.
So just like for our listeners, now you do a little bit of a distilling yourself at
Yes.
the distillery, which
Yes.
then that becomes a very unique brand or a unique whiskey in itself, that when you do, because it's such a small percentage of what you're going to be doing, but you're going to you're putting it in barrels and aging it, correct?
Right. Yes.
So that is going to be unique in itself. Now,
Right.
but when you think about what you're doing, okay, so one hand, you're distilling at Bardstown Bourbon Company right now, and you're getting ready for a brand. Then you're also purchasing barrels that have been aged, and you have your 120-year bourbon matching. And did Bardstown Bourbon Company do it on a molecular level? Did they analyze the bourbon, or was it just straight tasting?
It was mainly tasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got that, and then you got your MGP rye that you're doing. And so you've got like all this stuff. And to me, that's what a modern distillery, you're taking advantage of about everything you can do modern wise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got your rye, you got your bourbons, you got what you're doing. You're
Right.
actually having contract distilling, and it's really a cool kind of thing. And
applying it to the old school stuff and bringing
Yep.
it all together.
We're just, I look at it as we're covering all of our bases, right?
Yeah,
We
there you
got a lot of
go.
things going on, but it from a business perspective, we feels right. the right path.
So when's the restaurant brewery?
Yeah, no, we would love. So you visited us. So unfortunately, we're in a very small space and the building we own, but we've got a very small space. Our goal in the next year and a half is to get a more permanent home and to get a better customer facing experience. We really don't have a tasting room. We like to have a full-fledged tasting room. We love to do it, but we love to have like a 1920s prohibition tasting room. We don't want to run a bar actually. I feel like I've aged out of running a bar. So I would love to have a really neat tasting room and talk about the history of Hayner more so than we can do in our current space. Yeah, so we're looking
Ever a
forward.
chance,
That sounds
Greg, is there ever a chance to buy the old house that used to be the library that's now the historical center?
As far as buying it,
Yeah, and being able to put it back there.
no, that'll never happen. That's actually the house is actually still owned by the City of Troy school department or school district. And so it's now there is a couple structures attached to it that we've talked about, but we'd like to find a place in downtown Troy. Downtown Troy is very, very vibrant. We got great we're a small town, but we got big town ideas. Very, very vibrant. A lot of things happening. We got a brewery down there. There's actually another micro distillery coming to town. A lot of restaurants. So we're trying to find a place downtown so we can be part of that environment.
Is Kay's still open?
Yeah. If you visit Troy, you got to visit Kay's.
Kay's.
Kay's
that's the
Hamburgers,
place.
and honestly, they're great. It's a great local establishment that's been around forever in our town.
Yeah, definitely. Having Chris take me around the Dayton area, the Troy area, the Springfield area. I mean, he really grew up there, kind of knows everything. So he's a good guy to get to know because he promotes the hell out of the area.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely. All right, so that's you gave us a good amount of information, what you guys are doing. We look forward to, as you keep laying down your own, you know, your own stuff. I can't wait because you're doing it at a place that the people there really know what they're doing. And you know, when it comes to distilling, I think I look forward to the next 5 or 6 years with you, because you're just, as you know, this is all, a lot of this stuff is new to you and you have a passion for it, but at the same time it seems like you keep, as you go forward, you keep learning, and the more you learn, you're producing some good stuff, and you're using the right people, and you're capable of recognizing good whiskey. So, you know, just keep it up.
I appreciate that, and you're right. It's you know, surrounding yourself with the right people and a great team,
putting a good team together.
A big part of
I'll say
our
this:
success.
of all there's several small distilleries that have started that the first batch of things that they made, whether it's a bourbon or a rye, were not very pleasing. This by far is heads and tails above a lot of those. So
this rye is
keep it
amazing.
up.
I love it.
I mean, I'm not a, if it's a certain type of rye, I'm not a fan of it, you know, and so getting into
if you can get
I mean,
Tiny to like and give a good nod to a rye,
that night we were there, the Angel's Envy rye was, I actually did a video on it where it actually was, I actually spit it out. That's how bad Angel's Envy. It was just like, no, that's not what I want. I seagrass. I mean, I've actually had 95 rye from, you know, right from MGP, and when you do that, it's not good. Where I've had a lot of it that's not good, but when I've had also people that have, Aaron Harris at Watershed had a barrel. It was 95.5. He had me taste it directly from the barrel. It was by far the most fantastic barrel of, you know, rye I ever tasted and this right here has that minty chocolate. And you know, and that's what I'm always looking now for ryes. Before that, I really wasn't getting it.
Yeah, and you're so right. Barrel to barrel are different. So actually, at our place, we actually have a tap in the 95.5 6-year-old 95.5 barrel from MGP, and you can pull the tap and fill the bottle yourself right out of the barrel. And we did that with that barrel because it was so different than all the other ones. You know, we had all these 6-year barrels, and we're tasting them all. You know, these barrels were distilled the same time, filled the same time, but barrel to barrel is distinctly different. And it's amazing, and it's really, really neat. Not to say one barrel's bad, one's good, but they're just different. And the ones that we like the best, we set aside for our barrel proof. And so we do have a barrel proof 6-year rye, which is from MGP. That was just a really great barrel.
Well, also, I Hunter Coffee is from Three Boys, the master distiller, and he said to me, I had no idea this. He said that while you're tasting the barrels, like he'll be distilling, and it'll be a rye, and it'll be that the part like a celery. I don't like it. It's a vegetable celery forward kind of rye spice on it. He goes, 1 month you'll taste it and it'll have that. The next time he tastes it, it'll be a chocolate mint. And then he'll wait another 3 months and it'll be back to the celery. He goes, it really comes down to where it is in its aging and when it's produced. So I had no idea that was how it worked, but he said, you know, he was just telling me that that's something that you just got to pick it right when it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. They change over time.
All right.
Hey,
so
Greg, is there anything that you'd like to get out to the people that we hadn't covered so far at all?
I don't know. I feel you guys have done a great job. A lot of great questions, and I think we've covered most of it. I appreciate that.
It's awesome. How about you, CT? You got anything left?
I got nothing other than thanks for taking the time, Greg. I know it's a weeknight, probably got other things going on. I appreciate you coming on and spending the evening with us. So
All right.
Yeah, I definitely like
Yeah,
to
we-
reiterate that. Thanks so much, Greg, for
Yeah,
all
my-
your time and all your work in the industry and what you do.
All right, yeah, it's my honor.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and thank you for giving Hayner some exposure to all your watchers and listeners out there.
Absolutely. We definitely like and enjoy spreading the word.
Yeah, 100%. Appreciate, spending some time and let us keeping you up.
Oh no, I still
All
have
right.
an episode of Tulsa King to watch tonight, so I'll be
There
up a
you-
while longer.
Okay,
There
so
you
he's
go.
a late
All right.
late night guy. There you go. All right. So everybody, www.scotchybourbonboys.com. We are on all major podcast formats, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and what was the last one? Twitter. So, and then also the major podcast formats. Remember, if you watch, please listen, like, comment, and
share.
give us good feedback. That's very important. So, all right, that is another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Remember, good bourbon equals good times, good friends, and go out there and live your life dangerously.
Yes,
And
get
little
out,
Steve-O
Live
will
life.
take us out. All right, I got to turn it up.
All right.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
There you
All
go.
right. Thanks, Greg. We're still going live Facebook and YouTube. We're going to turn that off in a couple seconds, but you still have to be quiet.
has he
So,
been sitting there the whole time?
yeah, he's come and gone a
Hey,
couple times, but he's been pretty
You
good.
better make sure to take care of him tomorrow because he did a good job of being
Yeah.
quiet. That whole time.
Yes, he's a good guy, that's for sure.
He's been monitoring our Facebook camera for us.
I've been hoping to eventually get him to do some of the editing I do for YouTube and when I got to get the stuff up. So I'm gonna, young kids are good at the computer. So hopefully I could get him editing my stuff, take a little pressure off me.
Yeah, I told him earlier that he was already doing some production manager
I've been hoping,
jobs.
Okay, so I'm gonna quick get this going. The best thing I can do is save the actual podcast at this moment, and once I do that, we'll start. All right, there we go. And all right, so we'll start taking it down. We're gonna end the YouTube. We're gonna end the YouTube
Thanks
recording.
everybody at YouTube for tuning in and watching us tonight.